Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Rangers of the Old Republic, a Star Wars fan podcast. This is your co-host, Darth Zach, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
the Space Wizard.
And we are coming to you from the lovely Montebello, California. It is a lovely suburban town in Los Angeles County that has been the site of the site of filming for different movies and TV shows such as Sideways, starring Paul Giamatti, The Hot Chick, starring Rob Schneider, Honky Tonk Freeway, starring people I've never even heard of. What else have we got? Cry Havoc with other people I haven't heard of. Strange Cargo with Clark Gable. And one episode of NCIS Los Angeles. 2 episodes of Storage Wars. Thank you, IMDb, for your teeny tiny font, and I refuse to admit that I probably need glasses. Alright, now, Space Wizard, talk to me. What kind of Star Wars are you watching lately?
So, I've been watching the sequel trilogy lately.
Sequel trilogy lately,
The
alright, you watched the whole thing?
I've watched the entire sequel trilogy over this past week and weekend.
Oh, wow, you watched the entire sequel trilogy in a very condensed period of time.
Yes.
So, I don't doubt that it was 8.5, 9 hours of fun, but it was probably also a massive headache.
Yes, I actually did things out of order. I watched The Force Awakens first, followed up by The Rise of Skywalker, and then I watched The Last Jedi last.
Okay. And is this because Episode 7 is basically JJ Episode 1 and Episode 9 is JJ Episode 2 with as many FUs as the movie in the middle that JJ doesn't like to talk about?
The thing is, yes, I've noticed that watching it this way, the story cohesion, you can see where there's like a drop-off, you know? And in my own theory of the sequel trilogy is that The Last Jedi just didn't do enough to propel the story that they were telling in the sequel trilogy forward.
Okay.
And this is because, and my evidence is, look at all the characters that they introduced in Episode 9, seemingly for no reason. And it's like those characters could have been peppered in between Episode 8 if JJ were in charge. Okay? I'm not saying that Episode 8 wasn't original or anything like that. I'm saying that it just didn't propel the story that JJ was telling with the cohesion together in the middle part. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of tricky to think about it that way.
I see what you're saying.
So
wait. I see what you're saying so far,
okay.
But I just want to make one quick counterpoint.
Okay.
If Rian Johnson had been left in charge to do Episode 9, in addition to Episode 8, we probably would have seen some continuity from the things we saw in Episode 8 that didn't go anywhere, so I don't feel like placing the blame squarely on him is fair, because a lot of it was... J.J. Abrams, as a director, was also like the 5th screenwriter to get added to any screenplay in Hollywood.
Okay.
Like, they're just going to butcher. But the one counterpoint is, with Rian Johnson in charge, we would have gotten Benicio del Toro back for Episode 9.
So the problem is, I'm starting to appreciate Rian Johnson's work on Episode 8 as time goes on, but I also realize that there are things I just don't like about that movie. First of all, it is a beautiful movie visually. There's a lot of good visuals. There's a lot of good special effects. There's even a lot of good humor in there. But at the same time, I feel that it's a kick of the chair out from the fans who wanted Rey's story arc to go somewhere. And that was a punch in the gut for a lot of people. And I think justifiably so. So what I'm trying to say overall, and I think we could add some more backstory to this in a minute, is that what Disney should have done with Lucasfilm is gotten all their directors together in one room. You know, at this point it was still Colin Trevorrow for Episode 9, and said, okay, JJ, Ryan, and Colin, come sit down with us over here in Burbank,
Ranch or
in
wherever,
Burbank, or
Burbank,
Skywalker
yeah.
Ranch, and let's have a weekend where we do some frosty chocolate milkshakes and figure this out.
Yeah.
You know, and JJ would have been a great lead off to do his mystery boxes and setup, and then Ryan could have produced a movie that was really, really good but had more cohesion with Episode 9, and then Colin Trevorrow could have finished it all off. But the way that they put these three movies together, when you watch them in or out of order, you can see that there's a disjointed process that happens within all three of these movies. And I don't just want to blame Rian Johnson, because I think he had a vision, but the problem is that Johnson's movie is Johnson's movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't serve an entire trilogy.
Correct.
You know, that was their mistake. I'm not going to say anything. And we're so talking about the sequel trilogy, we have to remember that this is art, and art is subjective, and everybody views art in a different way, right? So if you like something, that's great. I don't necessarily have to like it for the same reasons that you like it. We're not looking at the sequel trilogy for the same controversial reasons that other people are, and that's based off of a racial profiling view or a homophobic view or a sexual harassment view or anything like that.
I remember how butthurt so much of the fandom was first when they found out that the kind of main character in episode 7 was going to be female.
Yeah.
And then how butthurt again they were after the rumor started leaking that there was going to be a romance between Poe and Finn.
Oh, yeah.
Which I guess was really in the works for like 5 minutes, but I also think it was also probably just some mega internal trolling going on.
I think it was. But I also think that Lucasfilm uses and abuses their fans as well.
Yeah, how many goddamn times have we bought the original trilogy on one video?
So, and they walk around with coffee mugs that say "fanboys tears" in them. You know, I mean, they troll us for all that we're worth too.
That kind of because here's the big and fundamental difference. Number one, I think that many corners or many sub-communities within the Star Wars fandom, the Star Wars macro community, because that is what we have.
Yes.
1978 had a Star Wars community.
Yes.
Today has a Star Wars network.
Yes.
Covering so many niches and whatnot. So,
and there's so many different factions.
I gotta say,
Star
it is
Wars
my
community.
opinion that some factions, a lot of factions even within the Star Wars community, have been unfairly abusive to any one of the actors or filmmakers. Daisy Ridley did not write this movie, okay?
Yes. And fan communities as a whole do things that are uncouth to their actors or the people that they don't like. Look at what Marvel MCU has done to someone like Wyatt Russell, who's playing the new Captain America, who's like, you know, they don't like him, and they've sent him death threats. Or the Raylos who harass Adam Driver's wife. There's a ton of people who are part of the fandoms who think that it's their job to intimidate Ahmed Best or Kelly Marie Tran.
Like, I'm sorry, dude. You guys, these people are like the ISIS of fandom.
Yeah.
And literally, I'm watching like the clips from the old ISIS propaganda videos from like 6 years ago, where they'll come in and like they'll line up a bunch of people like who are Muslim and execute them, talking about we are the only true believers and everybody else is the kuffar and we will kill all the infidels. So basically, you have these people threatening Adam Driver's wife and harassing Daisy Ridley and harassing you. Even like people all the time are probably still trying to break into Skywalker Ranch just because they are so passionately invested in what we love that they have just lost their grip on reality or they already had mental health issues. That said, holy goddamn, dude! Like, relax, man. Yeah, and here's my for just think about this. You try doing death threats against a Star Wars actor, or you try harassing this producer or that screenwriter, so that what are they expecting from this? Are they expecting that they're going to do a successful terror campaign? Yeah, and that's going to result in the Star Wars that they want to happen? Dude, you could, hire a Mexican Sicario and theoretically take out Adam Driver's whole family. Disney's still gonna come out with some shit that you don't like.
Oh yeah,
Like that's it.
Yeah,
It is still gonna happen. Like you could cause all the damage. You could cause all the trauma. You could give our Star Wars networks a bad name. But dude, like the challenge is, why don't you just get into fan edits?
Yeah.
Get into fan edits. That is a way more productive thing. You know what fan edits did? Fan edits created the despecialized edition of the original trilogy. That's what you can do with fan. All right, you know what fan edits did for all the people who don't like Jar Jar Binks, which is probably 86.2% of Star Wars fandom minimum. It was either the Phantom Edit or another fan edit. I think it was Phantom Edit. That's the one where they have Jar Jar still stuck in the boat and then dying over the waterfall.
Well, I think the other thing that they did was they had him speak in subtitles like Jabba the Hutt.
That's right. It was a different fan edit that killed Jar Jar Binks, and then Phantom Edit had Jar Jar speak in subtitles, and then it cut out all the stupidity, and then it downplayed his role so that he's more like just another guy in the galaxy who gets caught up in great events. Which I actually like that approach a lot better. How do you feel? All right, how do you feel about the differences between between Episode 8 and Episode 79? Well, Space Wizard, tell us what you really think.
To me, I don't like saying this, but I agree with it.
All right, artistic criticism.
This is artistic criticism.
We would still buy either JJ or Ryan or both lunch. All right, like
yes.
We're already at that point.
And see, the other thing is that I'm a Star Wars fan, just like other people are Dodgers fans.
Yeah,
they're Star Wars fans for life. They wear Dodger blue. They wear the hat. They go to every single game. To me, Rey is not a fully developed character in any one movie. She is somebody who reacts to the news, and they didn't spend enough time to develop that character in 7, 8, or 9. She was just kind of going through the motions and going through the paces. We see her anguish in Episode 8 for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
In Snoke's throne room, and that's about it.
Also in the cave.
In the cave, it was kind of like a WTF moment. I really liked
the scene with the cave. Actually, I really like that. The scene where Luke's training her, and then you got the balance, and then she gets called to the dark, and then later on she goes and explores the cave. I really like that because it was breaking this old concept that the Force is black and white.
Yeah.
And we see, obviously, if somebody is... If when you get all dark side, then like your body starts to kill itself, like all the human Sith Lords, their body decays, and if you do all light side, then you become totally blind to like real life disturbances like the dark side, like the entire Jedi Order. How the hell is the Grand Master of the Jedi Order gonna have a goddamn private meeting with Darth Sidious every Tuesday and not feel a freaking disturbance in the Force?
I felt.
Remember, Palpatine does not know how to hide himself in the Force. He has a lot of abilities, but hiding himself in the Force, that crap was invented specifically in Legacy of the Force. So don't nobody be giving me none of that nonsense because they didn't bring that over into canon.
Let's drag it back over the falls here. Okay, so the one thing that I liked about Episode 9 that they did to Rey is they showed that she was physically training as a Jedi.
Yeah.
Which is something that should have happened in Episode 8. While she did do all of the Force vision stuff that Luke went through on Dagobah on Ahch-To, that is true. There wasn't any physical development from her until Episode 9. That's too far past the falls. Like you gotta show how she develops as a character in 7, 8, and 9. And the other thing is that by the thing that I cannot tolerate in Episode 9 is that by Episode 9, Rey has the Millennium Falcon.
Uh-huh.
She has Luke and Leia's lightsabers. She is able to just park at Luke's old homestead, like whatever. She has all of the books from the Jedi library. And it's like, to me, she didn't earn these things. Like, they were just given to her. She takes the name Skywalker. And it's like these are just events that happen to her rather than her developing as a character.
Well, if you happen to have, here's the thing though, there's this unwritten rule in the Star Wars universe. If you happen to have defeated Palpatine in any kind of fight, you basically get to be Skywalker.
I guess.
Which, like, obviously there was a shitload of things that had to happen for Rey to be able to beat Palpatine, which I appreciate because there is no way I would have bought this still, barely out of basic training Jedi to, be strong enough to do this by herself. I even had trouble, like, Luke couldn't even do that. Like, Luke, even in Return of the Jedi, Luke is awesome in combat, and when he starts using the Force and starts having hate, he gets better at dueling and whatnot. But for the most part, outside of infantry combat, Luke is kind of a little bitch. Like, I'm not saying Mark Hamill, I'm saying the character. He is and we were talking about a child who grows up really fast and then repeats the hero's journey and the warriors and yada yada yada. The thing is though, I like that Rey was imperfect, and I like that a lot of people had to contribute towards her victory. I mean, how many people died on Exegol, before they were able to get rid of Palpatine?
Okay, so one of the things that we discovered is that Lucas, before he retired, he had a treatment for 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
And it's in a book. I believe it's called Archives Volume 4 or something like that.
Can't remember.
Okay,
we'll put the link in there.
We'll put the link in there eventually.
Maybe.
But basically, Lucas had a treatment for 7, 8, and 9. And while people say, "Oh, well, if they just stuck to this one, it would have been great," I'm not going to say that because there's certainly things that they could have done and tweaked that would have been better. But the story arc for 7, 8, and 9 would have been like a 20-year arc, and Leia would have been the lead character, and it's about her struggle to reinstate the New Republic and to get the Senate going again. Luke has a role, and he is basically starting the Jedi Order again.
Yeah.
He has to go find children to be Jedi again, and he's got to go recruit.
So in that sense, prequel trilogy focuses on the father, OT focuses on the son, and then sequels focuses on the daughter. I dig that.
So Leia would have had a fully developed arc as a leader of the Republic, and then Rey would have been a character named Kira, who would have been one of Luke's students, and I think that's fine. They still should have developed her as a secondary character, but one who subsumes Luke's identity as the Jedi Master by the end of like Episode 9, and then Luke would have ended up living past the end of the events of 7, 8, and 9. I still think Han would have been killed off in Episode 7.
Probably. Yeah, probably. And I know a lot of the fans were mad about that, but I was actually
I was okay with that.
I was okay with that because he's already been in a number of movies. And the other thing is, I was actually kind of laughing, and I was trying to stifle my laughter in the theater because I was wondering, was this already pre-written, or did Harrison Ford say the only goddamn way I'm doing these movies again is if you kill me off in the first one?
I'm pretty sure that was in his contract because very famously, Harrison Ford wanted to be killed off in Episode 5, and then he's like, "Oh well, kill me off in Episode 6 in Return of the Jedi, and let me have a hero's death." And then they killed him off in Episode 7 because, of course, they did. And so, if you know anything about Harrison Ford and how he envisioned his character, it's like, yeah, you gotta do a soft clap for Harrison Ford and Han Solo dying.
I gotta hand it to him though. I never thought I would see. I gotta hand it to him, and I gotta hand it to George Lucas also. I never thought I would see the day where I was talking about. Yeah, there are 6 movies with Han Solo in them.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, I was thinking about how they used Emperor Palpatine in Episode 9.
Oh, jeez.
And I remember the last
jeez.
time I watched Episode 6 that I heard Emperor Palpatine laugh at the end of the episode. Like, if you ever really, really need to, watch Return of the Jedi.
We did. We actually researched that because we were wondering, all right, was this George Lucas's idea? I imagine it, because here's the deal. It could have gone, before I walk in the theater, it could have gone either way. George Lucas really could have planned to have the Emperor be the bad guy through the entire story arc. Or it could be Disney just going, oh, you know what, this has been such a mess with director changes and so many rewrites and this happening and that happening. You know what, screw it. Let's just, let's bring back Palpatine because he's a dependable
I think that's
villain.
what they did. He was their coping mechanism because Supreme Leader Snoke was killed off in Episode 8. Which is, again, the main issue that we have with the sequel trilogy is its lack of narrative cohesiveness.
Narrative continuity. Because I don't mind Snoke being killed off in Episode 8 whatsoever. They could have, and here's the deal, I already accepted Palpatine, well, I mean, he was on the poster, but even before that, I accepted that he was going to be in the movie somehow, just because I've learned to keep my expectations low and just to let myself be surprised. Because I finally figured out, I reached Nirvana, and that is, Nirvana, for a Star Wars fan, is the realization that no other Star Wars project in the future is going to make you feel like you felt when you watched A New Hope when you were 7 years old.
For the first time.
You can never be 7 years old again, so
my point,
they can make a really good one anyway.
My point in pointing out to Episode 6 is that clearly Lucas had some reason to leave a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, we did our research and we went back and looked at the very end of Return of the Jedi, original unaltered trilogy, pre-special edition, before they added Naboo.
Before they added before they took out Yub Nub.
Yeah, exactly.
Celebrate the love.
In the original unaltered version of Return of the Jedi, you do hear a Palpatine cackle right before the end credits start. So, it's literally within 2 seconds of the first blue letters popping up on the screen.
So clearly,
Palpatine cackle is there at the end of Return of the
Jedi. Palpatine was supposed to be carried forward somehow to 7, 8, and 9 for the next trilogy, and clearly, I think that was set up.
Universe novels from the 1990s.
We'll get to that.
Clone Palpatine.
Clone Palpatine. So. Okay, let me get my cohesive thought out.
Let me get a cohesive trilogy.
You sit the three guys down at a Denny's and have them hash out a script. It's just that simple.
No. Better than Denny's. Yeah. Let's do Denny's, but what's the closest Denny's to the Disney Studios in Burbank?
Well, we'll have to find that out.
Or no. There's like 2 restaurants/bars that are like right across the street from the Warner Brothers lot. Do it there just to be trolls. Be like, hey, Warner Brothers, you guys don't have Clone Wars anymore. Disney does. How you like that?
Okay. So, what? My own speculative fiction is that what they should have done, if Palpatine was going to be the bad guy for the sequel trilogy, like Kathleen Kennedy says, they should have had smatterings of him throughout 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Palpatine is not involved in Lucas's treatment at all, from what I remember. I believe the key bad guy was Darth Maul. I may or may not be correct in that.
I know that there was a mention of Darth Maul, but I don't remember Darth Maul being the main bad guy. I do believe it was going to work its way up to be Palpatine.
Yeah.
So in that sense, Maul was going to be the most, I guess, present. But I got to go back and rewatch that video from Theory.
Okay.
I got to be completely honest with you. I got really tired of how Lucasfilm started recycling
Darth Maul.
Just villains who have been killed off in general.
Yeah.
Palpatine, all right, free pass because the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities, blah, 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 Darth Plagueis. Which, by the way, they should not have made that novel into Legends.
No.
Darth Plagueis is probably one of the best standalone novels.
And see, my point is that
But they could have, like, damn, like, they could have put Palpatine in throughout the trilogy more gracefully, or even, let's just say that they were gonna, they really just wanted to make it a twist and mess with our hearts and mess with our emotions, so we get no Palpatine whatsoever before the death of Snoke. I am at peace with that. Please don't show me Palpatine alive again in the first 5 minutes of Episode 9. Please work towards there.
Have a workup where there's a big reveal at the end.
Like,
and he's suddenly
the big
master.
reveal at the very beginning. Like, first we see him, and then you got Poe coming back, and you got like it seems
somehow
like
Palpatine has returned.
Yeah. Hey guys, we're just having this mission brief real quick. Well, guys, Palpatine's back. Oh, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah, man, we got to do something, you guys. The movie just it continues from there. Which, okay, but please. Do it a little bit softer.
Well, and the other thing is Dark Empire, which is where they cloned the Emperor, and I believe is considered to be the original.
Oh, Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2 are absolutely what they totally.
So anyway,
they absolutely mined that particular story.
They absolutely did. My point is that Palpatine. That's train of thought derailed.
Well,
hold on. No, don't.
Why do we only get... Here's the deal, yo. I think we should have gotten a slightly longer look at the tank of Snoke clones.
Yeah.
Because even though it would not have been, the most satisfactory thing, a little bit of a longer look at just the Snoke clones, and then it immediately clicks, oh crap, Palpatine is still clone happy. And apparently this guy's always been clone happy.
Well, see... Okay. The point is of using Dark Empire is that that's a 6 comic book series. That's a 6-issue series.
Yeah.
That's too much to draw out of for one movie.
Yeah, for one movie, definitely.
Okay? Dark Empire could have been the outline for sure for the entire sequel trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
And they could have had little reveals of Emperor Palpatine or how he survived.
Yeah.
Or communiques between him and Snoke. Kind of like in, like when they show the Death Star in Attack of the Clones. And to just push it all on at the last minute shows that they really didn't think of how to have a cohesive story.
Yeah.
It's all, oh shit, what are we going to do now? We just kill off our main bad guy.
I can handle Palpatine, but frankly, I'm not a fan that they keep bringing Darth Maul back from the dead. Because they not only brought him back from the dead after Episode 1, Obi-Wan killed him again in Clone Wars. I was not watching Clone Wars because despite the fact that most of the episodes do have really good story arcs, I'm just not a fan of the CGI version of Genndy Tartakovsky's animation for a more dramatic themed TV show. That stuff is fine for the micro series. The micro series was a lot of fun. That was a masterpiece in and of itself, but nobody doubted that was a cartoon for children that a bunch of adults happened to watch. Clone Wars, they marketed that first to more general audiences before they put it to Cartoon Network and then Disney. Because I remember watching the Clone Wars movie, which is really the Clone Wars pilot, in theaters. I still remember Sacramento 2008. I was on active duty and I was PFC. And even though I'd worked a 14-hour shift that day, I was like, I'm going to the movie to see Star Wars because this is the last Star Wars movie that they're ever going to make and I'm ever going to see in theaters. I've got to see the Clone Wars. So I saw it. I was a good fan, but anyway, so Darth Maul comes back and then he corners Obi-Wan and then tries to recreate the same situation. And then he starts trying to mess with Obi-Wan in the exact same way that he got himself killed the first time. And I'm going, bro, are you serious? Bro, are you serious? And then they brought him back. And then they showed him at the end of the Solo movie. And I was like, are you serious? Now, here's the deal, I still could have handled that just because at this point, I'm like a battered wife. I've got Stockholm Syndrome. So I've just accepted that Darth Maul has been brought back into Star Wars continuity no matter what I like. So Darth Maul is having that quick comlink call with Kira where he's giving her instructions. And then, right before he hangs up, he ignites both blades of his lightsaber and then hangs up. Who the fuck does that? Right before they have a phone call in the Star Wars. Well, make sure you do what I told you to do. Hang up.
See, what they could have done, and I'm not saying that Darth Plagueis had to be a part of it, but what they could have done with this series is explored a little bit more of the mysteries of the dark side if they were going to bring back Palpatine.
Frankly,
They could have shown that Palpatine somehow had gained the powers that he actually needed to save Padme's life after Padme died. You know,
Yeah.
and yet really he had a backup plan, and that would have been a very easy fix for the entire trilogy. But again, nobody sat down at a Denny's with a milkshake and said, "Okay, guys, how do we figure this out?" You know what I mean?
yeah.
And they thought that the fans were just gonna say, "Yay, it's Star Wars!
Yeah.
We love these movies, and they're never wrong."
Well, they thought that they were going to coast on having Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher, which that definitely those scenes with those three actors are among the highlights of those movies.
Yeah.
That said, the trilogy does not coast on Mark Hamill,
No.
Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford.
No.
They're fun movies, but again,
Harrison Ford, by the way, in Episode 9, didn't even bother to shave.
he didn't even bother
He's
to shave or comb his hair. He's like, all right, I'm here on set, guys.
Here I am on set, as salty as ever.
Come on, kid, just come back to the light side already so we can end this goddamn take.
I gotta take a leak already. Come on.
So, I was mentioning to you briefly that I just found this out. I haven't even gone to look at the testimony. I'm going to go look at it later on today. I did not know that a while ago, Harrison Ford testified at the U.S. Congress about Chinese crimes against humanity in Tibet. I did not know that Harrison Ford was a Tibetan-style Buddhist or a Buddhist of the Tibetan discipline. However, he totally is, and he really loves the Dalai Lama, and like you see his passion for his faith and for his adopted people, his co-religionists. So I would love to be able to find that, because I've seen photographs of him, doing Buddhism or at Buddhist activities, and that's really cool. And the whole reason this is relevant is I was watching a video the other day from the channel China Uncensored, which is called 6 Hollywood Actors Who Are Banned in China. And among the couple of different, actors and movie character roles that you see from different movies, you see Han Solo. And I said, Harrison Ford is banned in China. Okay, so I asked, pray tell why, and then that's how I found out. And yeah, it was totally ridiculous too, because of Harrison Ford's Buddhism later in life. And I don't know what Disney had to do to smooth things over with China, but
Yeah.
Star Wars A New Hope was banned in China until Disney took over Star Wars.
Wow.
I don't know exactly. Well, I mean, we kind of know what deal the mouse made with the Chinese for them to accept A New Hope. But yeah, I'm going to look for that testimony later tonight. I think we've got a lot more actually to be able to discuss about the sequel trilogy, but this has been a really good discussion so far. We definitely have to continue this in another episode because we still have not talked about the most important character in the entire story arc of episodes 7, 8, and 9.
You're talking about Babu Frik?
Babu Frik. Hell yeah, baby. All right, so thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and listening in to this wonderful episode of Rangers of the Old Republic with Darth Zach and my partner in crime,
Space Wizard.
Thank you very much, and we will see you guys
And we're
next
also
time.
saying, by the way, that sometimes getting a milkshake and talking it out is a solution to a lot of problems.
Absolutely, which is why we recorded this episode with In-N-Out milkshakes, baby. Toast. Yeah. All right, Star Wars fans. We'll see you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.